everyone, welcome to Chitter Chatter, where conversations don't just inform us, they stay with us. Today's guest is someone who has spent more than 2 decades bringing stories alive, not just on stage, but in classrooms, festivals, radio shows, and the hearts of audiences across the world. She's just not an award winning storyteller, speaker, educationist, author, classical violin vocalist, puppeteer, and radio show host, but she's also the founder of the Mumbai Storytellers Society and the festival director of the Mumbai International Storytelling Festival that is happening on the 15th and 16th August at the Godrej Dance Theatre NCPA Mumbai. So please welcome the wonderful Usha ji on our Chitter Chatter. Usha ji, I'm so happy that you're here on our Chitter Chatter.
Thank you, Shweta. And thank you for that lovely introduction. And I'm so happy to be here, finally talking to you.
Yes, this is something that we've been wanting to do, but I think the divine time was just now around the festival. So, before the awards, the festivals, and the stage light, what is your earliest memory of falling in love with stories?
The earliest memories were listening to stories from my grandmother, laying my head on her lap as she wove magic with her words, flying on the wings of her words to distant lands. I loved that, and that has been an enduring image.
Did you know little back then that she would make a storyteller out of you, or it was like, it just happened with time?
It just happened because she planted the seeds. I never thought. I graduated commerce and went on to do personal management. But life took a different course in the year 1988, where my life navigated, you could say, into storytelling. And then, since then,
When music enters the story, it has a different level of storytelling that happens. What fascinates me is that you're not only a storyteller, but you're also a trained classical vocalist. So, how does music change the way a story is told?
well, Shweta, my grandmother would tell stories interspersed with music, chants. That's what I remember. And I trained to be a classical Carnatic vocalist, and music has always been my best friend. And when I started telling stories, it became a natural companion that I had to tell stories with music, singing. I just can't think of telling stories not singing.
Be it storytelling, be it singing, it's all a form of creative expression. And you do all of it so beautifully. And when you combine the two of them, so like, if I go back to the time when you're molding a story and you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to be, what is your process at that point as an artist?
So, my earliest memories working with stories were again the year 1996, and I would sit in the crossword bookstore in Kemp's Corner and, going through the pages of the books from the children's section. They were my muse, and I would sit there and make copious notes, maybe rewrite it, and then I would think, how if I were to add a song here or there? Wouldn't that engage my audience? And since then, there was no turning back, be it a folk song or a Bollywood music or a classical twist or a melody. The stories were written with music in mind.
So do you hear a story before you speak it? Like, does it have a rhythm, a raga, a breath of its own?
It does, Shweta. It does, sure does. A story chooses a teller. So I rarely choose a story. There is an instant connect. Maybe I come across something on the television because it's taken over today, or on the OTT platform, or I'm listening to a podcast, or I'm visiting some place and I listen to something. immediately I connect, and then I want to do research and I want to tell that story. So the story finds the seeker. So that's the teller in me.
You've been narrating so many stories almost for so many decades. Does a part of that story always stay with you? Because every time there's a different audience, the story is the same. But you as a narrator must be changing, the audience changes. So, what stays back with you? That one thing that always comes back with you after every storytelling?
I think what stays is the magic. I have told the same story not only in India. I do travel quite a bit abroad, especially the United States, New York, and there in libraries and museums, I tell the same story. But the reaction, the audience's reaction, actually feeds my telling, and then I feel it takes a different perspective, and then I say, I didn't look at the story with this view. So, it also changes me as a storyteller, and sometimes I adapt the inputs. So, every time I tell the story is different.
Is there a particular raga that feels like storytelling to you?
Yes, I'm a classical vocalist and I love the rag Malkons or Hindolam. So, Hindolam is a beautiful melodious ragam, or I would say actually it would be Bhairavi. Because Bhairavi, there is a tehrav. It's nuanced even when you sing. If I can just hum a little bit, and then
Please do.
you will see the difference. So, Ambaka Maya Kshi Amba. If you see, it's a very slow beat. So we call it rettakala, that is each beat is twice. So it is a nuanced song. You can listen to every inflection, every little gamaka, every little, the elongation of the notes and everything. And same with stories, because you don't rush through stories. You have to, when you tell the story, you pause, and then certain words need to be emphasized. So when you tell a story, there are places where you have to use the pause effectively, or elongating, or bring in the song, and actually telling the story in a measured tone is actually very, very healing as well for the listener, just like music.
And then the way you narrate, I have seen a little part of you narrating in one of the festivals, and you are just like a magician on the stage. We can't take our eyes off because you just create that whole atmosphere where we feel we've been transported in that story. But to all this, there's another beautiful layer of you. You are a self taught puppeteer, which is another addition to the plays and the stories that you say. So, what made you pick up puppets in 1996 to introduce Indian classical music to audiences?
Well, Shweta, again, it was a serendipitous moment or a aha moment. Something clicked. I was there in Malabar Hill and Little Gibbs Road at the Cathedral Infant School, waiting outside the headmistress's office. And the little infant school had puppets as a theme that year. And I saw the puppets. And parents were actually very actively involved in the school activities. And I too wanted to, and I thought, what could I do different? And I thought, why not use puppets as musical notes to teach children the concept of melody and rhythm, rag and tal. And that's it. I sat down with a very noted musician, Aruna Sairam, a great classical vocalist. And then all that she told me was, if you can transform one child, if one child understands what music, classical music is, you've done your job. And well, since then, it's been no, I haven't turned back and looked back. I've just gone ahead.
Wow, and may you go more and more ahead, and may we have a lot of stories from you, lot of chitter chatter sessions from you, and a lot more things from you. But I also want to ask you, what can a puppet say that a human cannot?
Oh, puppet can say a lot. Puppets are like alter egos. Now, humans sometimes fear to communicate your feelings, but when you use a puppet, and I usually use glove puppets because they're easy to handle. It just asks for a wrist and an elbow and finger movement. You can say a lot. Words that were unsaid could be communicated through a puppet and very effective.
Have children ever responded more honestly to a puppet than to an adult?
Yes, children respond to puppets, and every time they remember the puppets that I brought to that school the previous year. I visit many schools in Bombay for the literature week or the festival that they have, and they remember the story that I narrated the last year, the previous year, and they also remember the puppets. So I have to keep in mind that I don't repeat that story. I bring something new, but there is a demand for from the children to repeat that story, which I do. So I think puppetry as a medium is very effective, and I think even adults love seeing puppets. I've done workshops for corporates, and some of my puppets are missing actually. And I think the middle management could communicate a lot to the top management using the puppets.
You're also an educationist, and I know storytelling is not just an entertainment for you, it's a transformation. So, what is the biggest mistake we make in education today?
I think education system is fast changing actually, Shweta. If you see, the international schools have mushroomed all over the country, and their basic fundamental principle is a teacher is a facilitator, not a teacher. So you
Right.
facilitate learning. And once we truly understand that, because let the child student discover, and you just hold their hand and take them, to the finishing line. So education is changing. It wasn't the way that I learned. So I think education is changing, and it shouldn't be exam oriented. It should be more you're testing the knowledge that you have acquired, because there are some people who are gifted with just learning things, memorizing it. But then when you go later on in life and you ask them, do you remember? I don't think. And I think about education system, I think is changing in India.
Can storytelling make children better listeners and thinkers and kinder human beings?
Absolutely. Storytelling does make better listeners. If you are an engaging storyteller and have a captivating voice, and for the little ones, I'm talking about 6 and under, if you use puppets, they will never ever forget that story. And especially if you have some repetitive songs or certain words, children will remember that. And I think storytelling is a very powerful tool in the early years, and it's here to stay.
I think storytelling is the first tool that started coming from one generation to the other. It's like just something that's not changed, irrespective of the AI or whatever. It's that important. So, if I had to say the importance of storytelling for you, and you had to just tell us and to the viewers in one line what storytelling is for you, what would it be?
Very difficult to sum it up in one word. I'll use 2 words. Storytelling brings joy, and stories can change, can transform. And well, I think that is what stories can do. They are so powerful, they matter.
You, like you said, you say so many stories, different age groups, different audiences, and sometimes you're going back to the same audience. So there are times you want to repeat because they've asked that on demand, but there's so much more you need to prepare. So, how do you do your research of stories?
So, Shweta, that's a good question. See, I revisit the stories. Now, if you see that the next month I've been invited to the Chettinad Heritage and Cultural Festival, where I'm performing Ramayana with puppets. Now, Ramayana is an old story, right? And I've been performing it for so many years, since the year 2013, when I laid my hands on my grandfather's book, written by C. Rajagopalchari. And this book came to me, my aunt gifted it to me. And since then, I've started on the journey of spreading the Ramayana. And every time I tell the story, depending on my audience, and most of them are adults, and I sing and I narrate this age old epic. But every time I do, I think there is, the story is the same, but maybe my act becomes a little more nuanced. There could be, I use songs and certain incidents. If I have the time, then I do add them. And because it's a framed narrative. So for a storyteller, there's a lot of scope to weave another story in the main Ramayana. Okay? So, and that is the liberty that I get to take if I have the time and if I feel the audience's interest is still there, and then I just dive in.
Your storytelling is deeply rooted in Indian culture and oral traditions. And like you've been diving in into the Ramayana and getting it and spreading it to the people. In an age of reels and AI, do you think that it's shrinking the attention span of your audiences? Like, why is storytelling still not suffering from the attention span of audiences?
Well, I don't think so, Shweta. I wouldn't be hosting the fifth edition of Mumbai International Storytelling Festival and 2 full days of the oral tradition storytelling right from 10 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. But if you see our schedule of events, we have such wonderful sessions. Each one is different. To give you an example, ragas and kathas. You also get to understand the classical rag, but you'll also hear a story. Now, Abhinaya Katha. So, one of the dancers is bringing the story of Madame Curie. It's wonderful, and she's going to do it with Bharatanatyam. Now, similarly, we have a wonderful storyteller who's coming from Bangalore, Amin Haq, who is bringing Gita with a twist.
Oh, wow.
So that is something I'm eagerly, he's actually going to premiere that story at the festival. Then we have Geeta Ramanujam, who is a doyen of storytelling in India, and Mumbai Storytellers Society is very honored to actually felicitate her with the Excellence Award for the spoken word. And she is bringing Krishna's last walk, and many people may not know why mythology, why these epics we revisit again and again, because they have a lot of lessons to impart. And then they also connect you with the past. And like ancient Indians encoded a lot of knowledge using stories as metaphors. So most of the epics are actually metaphorical. So they give you so much knowledge. And whether it's in the corporate field or in the social field, or even for little children, teaching you emotional strengths, emotional quotient, making you a wholesome person for your emotional well-being. Today, that is most important, right? We want to create mindfulness in our audience. And then we also have international storyteller Mara, Menzies, who has a twin nationality. She is also Scottish as well as Kenyan, and she brings these two heritage into her story. And that's going to be very interesting. And I believe she lives in a tree house in the hinterland of Kenya. And it's
Wow.
going to be wonderful because she's there with nature. And the Africans have a beat and a rhythm to their story, and they paint vivid pictures. AI can't take this, cannot replace this, can't be an alternate to oral storytelling. Similarly, the next day, we have storytelling called Whimsical Adventures for Adventures in Storyland, basically targeting the young listeners, children 9 years and above. So we have a theatrical presentation of called Bulakkad Gita. Now, theater and storytelling, but it will engage them because we have wonderful storytellers. And we also have our folk tales being revisited by storytellers who are presenting it in a different way, because always it's important that you have to adapt and then revisit that story so that it gels with the audience of today. And we have Villapattu. That's the first time I think it's being showcased in Bombay, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a very traditional art form of storytelling which comes from the south. It's basically bow song. So Ville and Pattu. Ville means bow, Pattu means song. So that will be very interesting for people. And we also have something called Luminous Legends, where three women from South are actually reinterpreting stories of the Sangam era. That's something that I'm looking forward to. Everything, if I start listing, it'll take me an hour to list. But all the stories that will be showcased, the most important is personal storytelling. Now, I know in India and in Bombay, Mumbai especially, the spoken word festival, personal stories are actually a great, great hit and popular with the young audience. So we are bringing a 90-minute of this, and this has been curated by Hong Kong Stories. So two wonderful women who have invested 2 months of their time in training four storytellers or five, and they will be performing an intergenerational personal stories.
Wow. That's a long list that we know. And there's so much excitement the 2 days Mumbai has for all the people here who love to hear stories. And if we talk, this is your little dream that became a moment. So, what was the moment when you decided Mumbai needed a dedicated storytelling community?
Oh, Shweta, that takes me back to the year 2010 when I visited Sweden, and I was mesmerized. I heard stories being told in the woods, in Gothenburg, the southwest of Sweden, beautiful town. I was there invited to listen to all the storytellers who had gathered in a little cabin in the woods. And that night is unforgettable. It was the night of Diwali. They had lit little lamps. The wood was dark. And as we navigated and found a way, I could see all the lamps lit, and I ended up sharing a beautiful folk tale about Diwali there. So for me, it was magical, and I was all fired up to bring that same magic in Bombay. It took me some time, but in the year 2019, I did form Mumbai Storytellers Society with one thought that we should have an international festival inviting artists not only from outside India but also from within India, and showcasing this ancient tradition and get the public, mainly adults. Children are already listening to stories, but adults have lost
Yeah.
listening to stories. And in Bombay, to survive with Bollywood theater is not easy. You are a theater person yourself. We don't act, we just tell
Right.
stories. So it was a magic, and I think that took shape in the year 2019, and it's been growing slowly but steadily. And we are now in our fifth edition of the Mumbai International Storytelling Festival.
Was it difficult to like convince people that, storytelling is a serious performing art and we should have this festival?
Yes. When I tell people I'm a storyteller, the first question is, oh, so you tell stories to children? That's wonderful. And this question is asked only in India. But when I travel abroad, when I say I'm a storyteller, it's adults and they're all interested in knowing what kind of stories I tell and where do I perform. And because in the United States that I have been visiting very often the last 15, I would say almost 18 years, I have been attending festivals and it's actually only adults. You visit schools, libraries, and museums to tell stories to children. But in festivals, you're actually telling stories to adults. Now, that was another thing I wanted to create in Bombay, in Mumbai, but it'll slowly reach there. So, when you say storytelling festival, oh, do you have a segment for children? So, this time, without saying it's for children, though the
Hmm.
entry is for 9 years and above, 9 plus, but we are catering to a family audience. So, well, that's what we do, and then slowly we will get there only for adults.
What was the most emotional moment in these 5 years? This is the fifth edition, and I'm sure every year would have been very special. But the most emotional moment of the Mumbai Storytelling Edition.
Oh, Shweta, it was actually the second festival which happened during the pandemic, which connected the world, Zoom and any online portal connected to the entire world. And in the year 2021, Mumbai Storytellers Society had a world global concert called Igniting Hope. And this concert was not just an ordinary storytelling concert. We had a purpose. We were raising funds for two NGOs who were coping with COVID relief. And we did the seed funding, or I don't know what you call that. You just do the festival. When the festival is going on, people can contribute money. And I partnered with the Mumbai First, another NGO, which is a think tank, and then book my show is the ticket portal. Book a smile. See, forgetting the name of the NGO. So they partnered with us, and they said, if you raise, let's say, for example, 2 lakhs by way of tickets, we will contribute the exact amount towards your cause. And that's
Wow.
what they did, Book a Smile Foundation. Yes. So we raised 15 lakhs. I mean, Mumbai Storytellers Society raised, I think, 7.5, and they contributed equal amount. And we gave that amount to the two NGOs. So that is a memory that I just can't forget, because storytelling was started for the community, to build a community. And COVID presented an opportunity for us to give back to community.
Tell us about the Mumbai International Storytelling Festival that is happening right now on 15th and 16th at NCP. What all can the audiences expect?
Well, Shweta, lots. Uh, See, it's a 2-day festival, and the theme is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That is again one world, one family, connecting the entire world, because family is such an integral part for every community. It's the family that shapes you. The past shapes you who you are, and then you contribute to the future. So, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is actually the theme, and also the last 2 years the world has seen a lot happening around us, and I think this festival will connect us all and bring everyone together. And each and every story session, like I said, is around Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. I am myself bringing a personal story for the very first time. I don't tell personal stories, I tell traditional stories. So I'm bringing what is called How to Hold a Cockroach. Well, not to turn away from that repugnant cockroach, but this is a personal story where I dive into my memories, my treasure trove of memories, to actually understand who I am, what is my identity. And in Mist this weekend, and this is what most of the storytellers are going to be performing about how the past has shaped them and how it can shape the future. So we have some fabulous sessions, and one shouldn't miss any of them.
Wow. Also, my next question, when you curate storytellers, because you're getting so many of them from different parts of India, internationally, what do you look for? Voice, vulnerability, authenticity, or something else?
I look for sincerity to their craft. I do go and shop for tellers. I do attend festivals that take place in India. I met you at Udaipur Tales. I wasn't performing then. But I do look for tellers and I invite them if I find that they're very sincere. So you can hear that authentic voice. You don't have to be very articulate, but if you know your story and you're very sincere, and that when it comes across is so beautiful, that is what I look for. And yes, we have about 38 storytellers performing at Mist this weekend. It's a great feat. I always tell myself, let me limit it to 5 or 6. That's how I started, Shweta. In the year 2020, when the first Mist took place in Bombay and Panchgani, there were just 5 to 6 storytellers. I enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed the subsequent festivals with so many storytellers. But I want to bring back that number to a single digit for the next festival.
This is not just a professional lineup, it's very carefully woven tapestry. So, how did you balance yourself?
So the curation of this festival took me almost, I would say, not 2 years, a little less than 2 years. The last festival actually completed in October 2024. So I'm a great planner. Immediately, I maybe took 10 days off. It was Diwali. I visited my family. And then I began to start thinking, curating. And I always feel I should give a chance to other storytellers. There are so many of them in India whose voices need to be heard. And I feel that I can give them a platform. So I invite them. But for a storytelling festival to be a success, you also need certain influencers who tell stories. You know, you can't sell tickets, though my tickets are very nominal, 400 rupees. But to sell the festival, you need certain influential storytellers.
True
So,
that.
yeah, so they are there. They are there with other first time storytellers.
So, like you said, we need influencers, we need some faces. That is the sad part. But the best part is that there are also these influencers who are influencing and continuing the art of storytelling. So, how does that feel that when you see the younger generation and, these renowned faces who also got onto this path?
So actually, it's wonderful. I have discovered some fresh, new talent. I have. probably they were already there. And that's how some of them are performing at Mist, along with the stellar performers who have already, carved out a niche and, who have already earned a name in the Indian storytelling scenario. So we're bringing new voices, and some of them are just brilliant, because storytelling is an innate art which is inherent in all of us. It's how you build it or craft it, or you're natural at it. And storytelling is just not limited to Hindi. I mean, not limited to English. We have Hindi session as well. And those storytellers are awesome, Shweta. I wish I could speak Hindi so fluently. So we have storytellers speaking in English and Hindi, and just Hindi. And that's going to be, I think, exceptional to listen to our national language and the beautiful Urdu and Hindustani, in the spoken word. It's almost musical. And I'm looking forward to this.
And now I'm going to put you in a tough spot, which is the session that you are really looking forward to. And you can say the whole festival, because obviously we all are looking forward for the whole festival. But I'm going to put you in a tough spot, and you have to choose the session you're very excitedly looking forward to.
Well, Shweta, I don't want to toot my horn, but I'm looking forward to the eco-feminist stories that I curated for the Kalagoda Arts Festival, and which was wonderful. It's a call to remember, and it's just not one storyteller performing. We have Mehak Mirza Prabhu, who is a wonderful storyteller, and we have Dr. Gayatri Sampath, who brings the intellectual element to the ecofeminism. And I am sharing a story dear to my heart, and it's going to be an ensemble of 3 storytellers on the 16th. And that's because I'm telling, it's not that, but also I want to promote ecology and feminism, because they go hand in glove with each other. If there is an ecological disaster, women are the first who get affected. So they support each other. There is a sisterhood between ecology and women, and that is what I want to bring forth. And also the intergenerational storytelling that's happening throughout the festival. So, but where you can particularly, if you can watch it as the personal stories, because I did get a preview of that, and it is awesome. It might leave you, kind of with, you might need a handkerchief to wipe your tears, because some of them, they touch the heart.
So when the audience come, they should come with their handkerchiefs.
Yes, tissues.
One story that can heal a broken heart.
One story. All stories heal you some way or the other. I remember reading this somewhere that, when you have told so many stories, you have a cushion of stories. And when you're in a spot of trouble or in the crossroads in life, your mind tells you, oh, why don't you go back to that story? But if you ask me specifically as to one story, is that what, Shweta? About one story?
Yeah. One story that you think one should read when they want to heal their broken heart.
Oh, I would say Ramayana.
And one story or Indian folktale that everyone should hear once.
The Panchatantra story of the monkey and the crocodile. It teaches you how to think outside the box. And it's a beautiful story. And I started my whole career on that story.
A story that you deeply admire.
I think all are epics, but if I were to pick one, I would say the story of the queen of Dandakaranya, Shurpanaka. She was not a demoness, but a story that's very, very resonates with me. Sometimes women are misunderstood, and with the retelling of our mythology by by women authors who have done a wonderful job of retelling these myths from the feminist perspective and viewpoint.
Music or silence before you get onto stage?
Oh, silence, and there is the music that you hear in the silence.
Children or adults? Which audience surprises you more?
I would say children. Children are such responsive audiences. They respond immediately. They give you feedback, but audiences are a little more restrained. But I think they're slowly coming out of that. I have performed for senior citizens where they didn't clap, they didn't respond, and I thought I had failed. But sometimes what happens is when you're conditioned, you feel you shouldn't talk about it. You're absorbing that story. I also understood that response because it teaches me. But anytime, children, for their response.
If Mumbai was a story in itself, which it is, and you had to give it a title, what would it be?
I would say potpourri of stories.
And one word for stories.
Change. Stories are change makers.
And before we close, I want to ask you something a little personal. After thousands of stories, performances, and festivals, what do you hope you remember about yourself?
You know, I consider storytellers to be social, not activists, entrepreneurs. Through their stories, they bring about transformation. So I would say if people want to remember a story, they could just say, "Oh, you changed me. I listened to your story and it changed me." And that's happened to me quite a lot, right from young children to adult women and also men. And I think that is the most fulfilling, I think, feedback that a storyteller can ever wish for.
You know, all the audiences are going to be watching this chitter chatter, especially the people who think that they are not creative or don't have a story. What would you like to tell them?
Everyone has a story. Just look within yourself and the story will just spring out. Because what is a story? A story is just when you open your mouth, you speak words, and the words fly through the air, land in the heart of the listener, and the listener is wondering with suspense what happens next is a story. It's as simple as that.
Thank you for this beautiful conversation. Today reminded me that stories are not just things that we tell, they're things that we connect, we preserve, and sometimes even that heals us. A huge thank you for being a part of this chitter chatter. And I'm going to tell all the audiences out here that if they are in Mumbai, they cannot afford to miss the Mumbai International Storytelling Festival on 15th and 16th at the NCPA, curated by Mumbai Storyteller Society. So, would you like to tell them and invite them for your festival, and where can they book the tickets?
Thank you, Shweta. The Mumbai International Storytelling Festival is happening this weekend on the 15th and 16th at Godrej Dance Theatre. It's a small little auditorium, cozy, a 175-seater, and the tickets are already sold out. So, but those who have booked the tickets, please enjoy. I know it's a day-long festival. You can take a break and go walk in the lawns or enjoy the Mumbai monsoons on Marine Drive, but come back renewed, refreshed, and listen to the stories that we have put for you, just not only to entertain you, but also to engage and also to somewhere share. And I think you will come back enriched, feeling joyous, and feeling entertained as well.
Thank you for this chitter chatter. Means a lot, and all the best for your festival. We're looking forward for many more stories from you.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you for doing this. Thank you.